color share screen in the middle there.
Can you guys see?
Yeah,
Share.
we can see.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we can see your.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Fine. So I do have to admit all.
This will share. It's got topic as yeah. So you have to click on that. Share your screen. Oh, we want to color the screen.
Yeah, we are able to see the shared ones. Yeah. Okay, so
I can't stop sharing.
we have a lot of audience coming in, and then they'll be joining. So I think we've got a lot of attendees here now, and so
I think Shabab, you need to switch off either the computer or.
yeah, I need to. Yeah. Okay. All right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Welcome to the Woodlands Islamic Center Career Preparation Guidance Seminar. Let's start with the recitation of Holy Qur'an, and we have Imam Arif Hamad here from our Woodlands Islamic Center. Imam, please recite.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inshallah, I'm going to recite the last two ayats of Surah Al-Baqarah. Same in Arabic first and the translation after I finish. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين. ما شاء الله. The nearest meaning, the messenger has believed in the guidance which has been revealed to him from his Lord. And so do the believers. They all believe in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers. They say, we do not discriminate against any one of them. And they say, we hear and we obey. O Allah, grant us your forgiveness. O Allah, to you, O our Rabb, to you we shall all return. Sorry.
No, Sheikh, it's.
Go ahead. Okay, because I hear some shallow one, almost done. Oh, our Lord, to you we shall all return. Allah does not burden any. Everyone will enjoy the credit of his deeds and suffer the debts of his wrongdoings and wrong deeds. The believers say, oh Lord, do not punish us as if we forget or make a mistake. Oh Lord, do not place on us a burden as you placed it on the people before us. Oh Lord, lay not on us the kind of burden that we have no strength to bear. Pardon us, forgive us, have mercy on us. You are the protector. Help us against the infidels. Allahumma ameen. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you very much, very much. So just to introduce myself, my name is Sayyid Ayaz Anwar, and currently I'm the president of Woodlands Islamic Center. A little about the center. Woodlands Islamic Center is located in Sawdust in the Woodlands, and it's got a prime location very near to I-45, and of course it serves the Woodlands and the Spring community. So we are at the stage first stage of our construction, mashallah, already complete, and its plan is about 2 acres. So our program, inshallah, in a few years to build a masjid, which is of course is our prime objective here. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists today here for this seminar. Of course, they are eagerly waiting to provide valuable career advice to college students, graduate, and the job seekers. We have in our panel Athar Imam. He is a senior manager at Transocean. We have Mr. Iqtidar Khan, electrical and automation engineering manager, SNC Levelin. Mr. Masood Hassan, he works in the ExxonMobil. He is in a trader. He's a trader. Mustafa Ali, associated partner in McKinsey, and then Shahab Saeed, a global product manager, ExxonMobil. So these are our panelists. And then lastly, I would like to introduce my co-host. His name is Muhammad Junaid. Currently, he is working in Huntsman Chemical as a director of manufacturing. Actually, this event is his brainchild. And I would like to now hand over to Junaid to start hosting this event. Plus, of course, he has something to say. He has his own presentation before. Thank you. Junaid, please take over.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. First, I would like to start by thanking the Woodlands Islamic Center, Masjid Al-Ansar, and the panelists who have taken a time to come over here and present their views, and especially to the Woodlands Islamic Center for giving us the platform to share our views. One disclaimer in the beginning, all the panelists that you see over here are presenting their views in their personal capacity. By no means their views represent the views of their company, or they are talking on behalf of their employers. I hope whatever information we share today, you find it useful. Please raise your questions, and if we are not able to answer, you can always email to us later on, and we'll try our best. So we started this work. I think the first session we had was in last year in late autumn. It was end of third quarter, and we were planning to do the same at this time again, but there were a lot of issues. There was a concern raised about the impact of COVID-19. So we decided to add COVID-19 to the list. And the idea is, see if we all can share some thoughts and views on what can we do at this time to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. So COVID-19 is a reality. These are challenging times, and it's here to stay for some time until we see something different. And we don't know when it's going to finish. what will be when it will bottom out and how the things will look after it. But with every challenges, there are few opportunities. So I'll list a few opportunities for the team. And I think about these things, guys. What are the opportunities coming due to this pandemic? First, all of you, whoever is impacted by it, they have got some spare time. So my strong advice is invest it, utilize it to learn and do different things. Then the advantage, the opportunity I see is that this is a new normal. None of us is used to it. So whoever learns it, masters it, will have an advantage going forward. The thing, I think a lot of free information is available online. These webinars that you see today, whether you are on LinkedIn or other places, these webinars were not available before the pandemic. Or if they were available, they were not free. You had to pay to register and to learn to listen to those things. Other thing is these webinars are very small. They are 1 hour clips, 2 hour clips, a lot of discussion panels and these things. So take advantage of it. Fourth point, I think everybody is in this pandemic. Everybody is affected. So people are working together. There's not a competition scenario where we compete against each other because few have the opportunities and the others have others are facing the challenge. So I think this is a fair play. All of us have the opportunity here. Digital advantage. So especially to the youths, guys, you have a almost in job, whereas you have been using it. So you have an advantage. Age is on your side. You guys can work very smartly on these devices, whereas some of us struggle. And a lot of people will struggle to cope with this age, and they will leave to make space for you guys. So if you are ready, you'll be in the right position to take advantage of this situation and benefit from it. So my 2 cents is, rather than worrying about or complaining that this is bad, yes, it is bad, it is challenging. Let's be positive. Let's take the advantages of what this is offering to us and learn from this opportunity and then apply it. Let's be ready. So whenever the opportunity comes, you are the most readiest person, I would say, available to take it on. So with this, I would hand it over to some of the panelists so they can explain, they can take us more through. So I would like to hand over to Athar. Athar, can you please share?
Okay,
screen
thanks, Junaid. Can you unshare yours and then I can share mine?
I did.
Okay. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, Athar, we can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Trying to move it to the presentation mode. You can still see it?
Yes.
Okay, so all the panelists have got 5 to 7 minutes to kind of put across their point. I want to briefly touch on 3 points today. One is the digital footprint. The candidates need to have a very much visible footprint these days on LinkedIn. I'll talk a little bit about that. There's some points or hints I want to give on the job interviews, especially around the behavioral traits the employers are looking for in their candidates. And lastly, as Junaid was asking us to kind of see, what we can, guide you guys, what you can do while COVID-19 situation persists and how you can augment and improve your skills. So hopefully I can be to the point and quick. So digital footprints, more and more employers and recruiters are now using LinkedIn to search for the right professionals, right candidates. And I think it is important these days that, youngsters, they have a digital presence on LinkedIn. It helps with the job search. It helps with, creating a network of your professionals, colleagues, professors. So I would, suggest that you guys create your profile, and the profile is not simple that you like a Facebook profile where you go and have a nice photograph. Use this as a resume, which you can mark across your network. So that's the first point. Create your resume. You know, have some referrals from your network, you know, add people to your network, especially your colleagues, your past professors. You know, if you have worked in summer jobs, you know, people who you worked with, you know, ask them to write some referrals and recommendations, because all of these help when somebody looks at your profile and they look at some of the you know, past history, your skill sets, you know, and some of the, you know, recommendations from other folks in your network. So do that. The other thing I would suggest is you follow some of the companies that you're interested to work for. You know, follow some industry groups. And what happens with that, you know, following these, you know, others companies, is that every now and then, you know, they will post some openings, some positions. And if they are on your, you know, follow group or in your following, then you can obviously be advised or informed of that there's an opening coming up. You know, lastly, I think it is important to be active on this platform. You know, for us who have been working for last 24 years, you know, I've been working for one company for the last 24 years. So for me, it's not that important, but for you guys who are out, you know, looking for opportunities, looking for, you know, the companies, good companies to work for, you know, be active, you know, post things, share things across the platform. So, you know, you stay on top of people's daily feed. So that's, you know, very important these days, digital footprint. The second thing I want to briefly talk about is job interviews. You know, when I was a young guy starting my career, I thought I need to know all the answers to all the technical questions. It's not about the, you know, doing all the right answers to the technical questions, or you know, what your, you know, expertise is, what your you know, knowledge or the field is. You know, it's more than that. When you go for an interview, you know, personally I feel that it's 50-50. 50% is how much knowledgeable you are in your field of interest, but 50% of it is your personality. And the organizations and the recruiters, when they are interviewing their candidates, they are looking for those soft skills in those candidates. And you know, some of it is honesty, friendliness, motivated, responsible employees. That's what they're looking for. So make sure that, and you know, one thing I want to mention here is that we think that, you know, you go for an interview for an hour and you sit through an hour. No, as soon as you walk in that room, the first impression, within 5 minutes, the people sitting in that room will make an impression about you. And the rest of the interview, they're just validating that impression, whether it's right or wrong. So be at the best behavior from the first minute you walk into that room, or if it's a remote, you know, remote interview. You know, there's obviously do's and don'ts. You know, I'm not going to go into that. You know, confidence is good. Overconfidence is going to backfire on you. You know, it comes as an arrogance. You know, sense of humor is good, but sarcasm come across negatively. So be positive, be open, be flexible. You know, be honest. You know, that's the most important thing. Be honest. If you try to go and you know, wing it, somebody asks you a difficult question, if you don't know, you don't know. You tell them, look, I'll research and I'll come back to you. So again, you know, don't think that it is not important how you behave, how you conduct those interviews. It is extremely important. You know, I've been in my industry and several jobs, when you know, when I'm building my team, I'm looking for soft skills than so much as the knowledge. Because you know, when you are in a team setting, when you are in you know, in a leadership role, you need these soft skills. Okay, moving on to the next point, which is taking advantage of the COVID-19 situation. I think, you know, we need to, like Junaid was saying, we need to take this opportunity and turn it around for our advantage. You know, there is so much of digital media, digital knowledge available on the net these days, and especially with COVID-19, a lot of it is made free by the universities, by you know, the education institutions. So I would suggest, you know, you take this opportunity. You have time at your hands. You know, improve your office software proficiency, and it's not just simply how to create a Word document, but you know, some of the advanced Excel skills. You know, I've learned over years that, you know, Excel is one tool that, you know, when I was a young, you know, engineer in year one until now, I use it heavily. And you need to learn some of the advanced skills in Excel. You know, one of the things these days is this digital transformation. you need to know what this digital transformation is. You should be very knowledgeable about it, because when you go for an interview, there may be some companies who are actually executing their strategy on the digital transformation. Learn about that. The other thing is that these days companies are driving their business through data, business intelligence. We call it data driven. So, you should be able to do your data analytics yourself, whether it be Tableau, Click, Excel, and you should invest your time learning some of these tools. They're going to be very, very useful for you, whether you are, 1 year in your job or when you're 25 years in the job. I still do it myself. Yes, sometimes you do need, experts to do it for you, but, on a day-to-day, my decisions, business decisions are driven by the data analytics I do on a regular basis. And lastly, I would suggest, presentation skills, how to sell your ideas effectively, internally and externally. And once you start a job, a lot of that selling is done internally in the organization. When you come up with a new idea, you have to ask for budgets. You have to ask for, new initiatives to be started. So work on those presentation skills, and I'm sure you'll be very successful once you start a job. So I think that these are a few points, and I can take questions once all the panelists have gone through their, topics. Thanks, Junaid.
Thank you, Athar. I think let's go to Iqtidar next. There. That was very helpful. Thank you, Athar.
Thank you.
I hope everybody can see my desktop.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about how to improve your professional profile during the lockdown. And I've put together a couple of resources that might come in handy for our participants today. Basically, you need to make use of this opportunity, as Junaid and Athar have already indicated, to invest time for your future. And you need to volunteer your time to non-profit professional organizations. I see lots of opportunities available online to review material, to prepare presentations. So it depends which profession you're in. You can contact your professional organization and make yourself available to help online if you have time. Join LinkedIn and WhatsApp groups for professionals. You will find a lot of useful information and invitations to seminars like the one you're attending today, and also to subscribe to online resource free learning. So I'm going to show you a few links. You can also approach subject matter experts and professionals in your line of work and request them to provide mentorship to you. You can identify skill improvement resources for your profession and make use of your time to those skills. And you can also enhance your professional knowledge and skill using LinkedIn and some of the other free resources on the internet, such as YouTube. You will find a lot of good videos on YouTube to help you prepare for interviews, to write a good resume, to improve your LinkedIn profile. And depending on the subject that you are studying for, you can find resources on Khan Academy, and Houston Public Library gives you a lot of good training courses on behavioral skills, health, safety, and trainings and knowledge and use of Excel, as Athar has already indicated. So use opportunity to register yourself. Houston Public Library is one resource, and these days they have made all of these training courses that you see on the screen free of charge. So online training, all you need to do is use your use your library card online to log in and view these training courses. So there are in-depth videos, and there's also print material, or you have the material available online. You can print at home, or you can use your computer to view the printed material. LinkedIn also has a lot of free learning. If you go to LinkedIn Learning page, you will find a few courses which are available free of charge for workplace skills. So make use of this facility to view some of these courses, the featured courses such as how to manage balance your work and life, and managing stress, etc. And in the end, I would also like to indicate that every profession has certain certifications which help elevate your professional profile. So make use of this time to study for your selected profession. You will be able to find free resources, ebooks, and exam prep groups on the internet to help you prepare for your certification exam. That you will have to register for the exam and prepare and write the exam. Most of the exams are being conducted online, so this is a huge advantage for you to make use of this time. So that was all I had compiled for my presentation. Thanks for your time, and I'll take your questions after everybody, or after all the panelists have spoken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iqtidar. That is very helpful. Let's go to Mustafa next.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Thank you, Junaid. So, first of all, for everybody who's joining today, congratulations that you are here in this session today. I feel like you've taken the right step, and you're learning from mentors, and hopefully acting on this advice as well. So excited for you to be here. I don't want to repeat anything that Athar and Iqtidar shared today. I think it was great advice. A couple of things that I would add, in terms of looking for opportunities in this COVID environment, a couple of tactical things you can do. And then would love to also talk a little bit about, how to make a great first impression and strong impression as you talk to different potential companies. So, first of all, the truth is, yes, it's a challenging environment. A lot of on-campus recruiting has been canceled or scaled back, but 80% of jobs never get posted, right? A lot of jobs out there, they get filled through, personal recommendations, or they already have somebody in mind based on prior networking. So keep that in mind. And a couple of things that would be good is, tap into that offline network, talk to family, friends, right? Everybody's facing this challenge. There's no embarrassment in saying, let me reach out to friends, let me reach out to family, friends, and see if they can help me. Also your personal network, right? Go through LinkedIn, reach out to alumni from your college or from your neighborhood, and see if they would be willing to mentor you, and if they can shed light into whether their companies are hiring or not. Second is online. You're on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Look for a hashtag, hashtag jobs, for instance. I've personally posted a couple of positions that we have open with the hashtag jobs. A lot of people are doing that. And we realize it's hard to find who's still hiring in this environment. So, see if there are companies that you may not even know about just through looking for those hashtags. And then third would be, share opportunities with others. Maybe you find something that's not a good fit for you, but it could be a fit for your friend or somebody else. And I think if we create this environment and culture where you're sharing opportunities with others, and it's not a competition but collaboration, it will help all of us. And then final, on resources, look for opportunities to freelance, right? So with the downtime that you have, there's some websites like Upwork. Upwork is more focused on, technology and marketing types of positions, but there are a lot of other freelance websites that have all sorts of positions available, and use that as a way to build experience and get to know people. So now talking about, how do you make a good impression? I'd love, when people reach out to me, what I love to see, and actually McKinsey, when people apply to us, the first thing that we look for in a resume is what's the impact that you've had, right? And whether you're talking to people individually or, on your resume, on your bullets, I love to see, not just that you created a Tableau dashboard, that's great, but did that Tableau dashboard save the salespeople in the company 5 hours a week of work because they don't have to look for information? The information is right there on the dashboard, right? Or maybe you help save your company $50,000 or $100,000. So I think going beyond saying, I know Excel, I know Tableau, and saying what's the impact that you had, it has, number one, a benefit to say, your work was meaningful. And I think the other thing is, going back to the advice Athar was giving, it shows a little bit more about those behaviors and mindsets that employers value, right? And it shows that you created something of value for others. Again, just a little bit of advice on tactical things to look for jobs, and then how to create a good impression. I'm happy to field questions after all the panelists have been through. Thanks.
Thank you, Mustafa. There are a lot of questions waiting for you about McKinsey as well in the queue, so we'll let's go to Masood next.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, guys. Thank you for the opportunity to provide my perspective. I think I was there in the fall session last year, and really enjoyed speaking with the members there. So let me just start with a quick background on myself, and then I will, I guess, endeavor to provide my perspective. I worked with one company, ExxonMobil, for the last 20 years, and I'd like to describe to you the process of our recruitment cycle, some of the things that we look for, some of the things that I have looked for as we have screened candidates, whether it's resumes or it's interviews. And I'll share that perspective with you, and then we'll open up with questions. So just a brief background on myself. I've been with Exxon, as I said, for 20 years. I'm originally from Pakistan. I did go to the UK for my undergraduate degree, and then started working with Shell in their downstream business, so another energy company. I moved to Canada in 2000 and joined Exxon's affiliate, and have worked for them in various places: Toronto, the East Coast of Canada, Calgary, Virginia, Newfoundland, and now Houston. Most of my experience has been on the commercial side. I've worked in business-to-business sales, operations, analysis, strategy, and portfolio development. I've done a brief stint in the upstream as well in our commercial business. I have some logistics experience, and also done analytics. And currently I'm trading crude oil, which is a very interesting world, as you can imagine, with COVID-19. So over the last 10 years, I've been involved with recruitment on and off. We actually, Exxon, in the last 3 years or so, went into this massive recruitment cycle. We're a very traditional company. We tend to go and hire from campus. And then our sort of motto is we hire you until we retire you. And so we took a bit of a break from there because ExxonMobil became more active on the trading front. So petroleum trading, crude trading, products trading. And as a result, we went out and did a lot of experienced hire recruitment as well. So I'd like to speak about that later on, but first let me focus on the campus recruitment process for ExxonMobil. So Exxon is a company that hires both generalists and specialists. Generalists are people that show leadership ability, and obviously we are looking to replace our current crop of leaders with leaders with a young generation. And the way we do that is we hire from the STEM fields primarily. That's our preference. And the reason for that is our business remains fairly asset heavy, you know, from upstream reservoirs to production platforms, refineries, pipelines. The physical nature of our business means that the preponderance of our recruitment is from the STEM field. So we hire a lot of engineers, we hire geologists, technicians, and then for our finance and other functions, we also hire MBAs and so on. The way that our cycle works, we have targets that are set usually in the summertime. We post online, and then we start to screen resumes sort of the August-September timeframe. We have not received recruitment targets for this year. We expect them to be lower than historical. Clearly, a lot of investment has been curtailed because we're in this unprecedented situation for not just the entire world in general, but the energy business in particular. We've seen a massive hit to our demand and to our base. So, continuing with the process, what we do is once we posted these positions, we invite applications. Obviously, the key part of the application is the resume. And what I'd like to share with you is that most managers, including myself, don't spend a lot of time looking at resumes. Actually, I should take that back. We spend a lot of time looking at resumes, but we don't spend a lot of time on an individual resume. So we may spend maybe a minute to a minute and a half before we move to the next one, unless it catches my eye. And the things that we look for are essentially three things. One is clearly your grades, how well you've done in school. I'm not going to deny it, that's the most important thing. In fact, that's the ticket to the game. But it's not enough. We also look for leadership. I think Brother Arthur mentioned soft skills. They're really important because you cannot work in any company, in any industry, in isolation. Even when you're working from home in today's environment, and I've been at home for the last 6 weeks, we have actually started to work even more intensively. And so working with others is a social skill that we look for. And let me give you an example of an individual that we hired recently a few years ago. And she demonstrated and displayed all the dimensions that we look for. For example, she was a young chemical engineer with a joint business degree. In her spare time, she did triathlons. She was involved with charity work for an African cause. And she also ran the administration of a student residence while at university. So clearly, a resume like that will float to the top. And it will get screened, and it will elicit interest because the content is there. And hopefully, it's been put together in a brief form that it catches your attention and allows you to spend that precious minute that you have to have it float to the top. The next stage for us is interview at the campus. We've got what we call team captains, former alumni, usually 5+ years with the company, that will go and meet candidates at the campus. They will filter them further and bring them back to the interview. And under our process, you get to spend almost a full day with multiple managers, including a lunch, a tour of the campus. And the idea here is for us to be able to see you, talk to you, learn about you, see how you present yourself, see how you communicate. Do you have the social skills? And also, at the end of the day, when you've returned, for us to be able to speak to other managers to see what their perspective was so that we can make that decision jointly as a committee. Before I close, I'm seeing the time prompt from Brother Athar there. I would agree with both of my brothers earlier who said that, Excel is a skill that is extremely important still. I've been using Excel for the last 20 years. I'm obviously not as good as some of the younger folks that are on this forum, but it remains king. Yes, Python's extremely important. Data analytics is very important, but the language of business and the language of calculation, computation, and how you come up with your, NPVs that are understandable to a broad range of folks still remains Excel. So I would reinforce the point made by the brothers earlier. Do invest in Excel, learn it, you'll be using it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Masood. Some very good tips. Of course, we'll come back to a lot of questions. Let's go to Shabab now.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear.
Excellent. Okay, so a couple of things to say at the start. I saw Sheikh Arif at the beginning, so assalamu alaikum to Sheikh Arif. He's also our local sheikh here in Cyprus, so it's a pleasure to see him after such a long time. Secondly, you know, one skill for everybody to notice that we're not doing very good at is time management. So I'll try and make it quick, the next 3 minutes. I'll try and give some time back because I'm sure a lot of people are waiting for some questions. So my name is Shabab Saeed. As you can tell, my accent's a bit weird. I actually joined ExxonMobil, similar to Masood Bhai, back in the UK, where I graduated just over 25 years ago. I've been in various roles: engineering, operations management, supply chain, commercial sales role. I've ran businesses in far-flung fields like Eastern Europe, Asia, Singapore, done projects in China, down to Australia. And I've been here in Houston for the last 5 years in a couple of roles, one as a global supply chain manager. And then fast forwarding to the role that I'm currently doing is actually a global marketing manager looking after our product offers that we have across our lubricants division or engine oils division, as most of you may know. So if anybody knows the Mobil 1 brand and uses that for their cars, you know, I look after that brand. And my team does as well. So that's a little bit of a plug from my side. You know, there's a lot of valuable information that's been shared by the previous speakers and colleagues. And, you know, that's been fantastic. I think most of these insights are important for you as graduates as you come in and think about how you want to strategically approach your applications and target companies. You know, a couple of bits of advice I'd give during this crisis as well. You know, one of the attributes we look for as a company is problem solving and resilience. And as most of you are probably at home, hunkered down, trying to study remotely, you're probably scratching yourself and wondering, you know, your head and wondering, how am I supposed to demonstrate resilience and problem solving in this environment? Well, we're doing it every day, as most of the colleagues that I've got on the phone here know, through Zoom, and we're connecting back with work. But there's all sorts of things you can get involved with. I'll just take a small example of my son, and some of the colleagues in the call know. He's back in the UK studying, but he took it upon himself to do something a bit extraordinary during Ramadan and run 150 kilometers and raise money for charities across the world. And what he did, what he wanted to do in this process was not only do that for himself and for the reward he would get, but also really to demonstrate to himself he could use digital platforms and digital outreach to collaborate, to communicate, and to in effect problem solve. And one of the challenges he had was he had a target to raise money, and in the end he wasn't able to get to that target without some networking. So he went across and asked me and a few others to reach out using all of those fantastic digital platforms that I'm learning about, like WhatsApp and Zoom and the like, and really, you know, fanned out his marketing and got actually a much broader kind of input to his raising of money, and actually bust his target by over 25%, which is a phenomenal effort. But it took him problem solving and using digital and trying to demonstrate that he could do it while sitting at home. So, you know, well, that may seem pretty simple, and you're thinking, well, you know, really, do employers look for attributes and assets like that from a potential recruit? And the answer is absolutely yes. You know, when we are interviewing, as some of my colleagues are saying, is we're looking for not only technical or functional attributes, but we are looking for what we call behavioral or soft skills. And in a company like ExxonMobil, we look for things like courage and courage of conviction. We look for being thorough and thoughtful. We look for actually being resilient, collaborative, demonstrating networks, as well as, you know, and this came across from what he was doing, an urge or a want to compete, okay? Because in the end of the day, whatever you're doing, however you're approaching your applications, whenever you get into the world of work, you'll be competing. Day to day, week to week, month to month. And I'm not saying in a bad sense with your peers, but, you know, enterprises are there to generate money. And these are challenging times. So think creatively about doing that in the time you have, and how would you do something that gets you noticed on your resume, and noticed when you have conversations, and noticed when you're networking digitally. I just wanted to keep it brief because all of the other tips and taps are there, but I'm trying to really just make sure that, you know, you got an example from my own son. He's in his early 20s, just turned 20 actually. And he took it upon himself to show a lot of initiative over and above his academics. And demonstrating that is so important, okay? I'll call it a stop there. I think maybe in the last caller, Junaid Bhai, you want to end that?
Thank you, Shabab. Thank you very much. Okay, so guys, I received some questions, and let's start with the Q&A. So I've got a question. You know, our youth, they're asking, what keeps you motivated? And I would suggest, why don't Shabab and Masood, you try to answer this one?
Sure. You know, the most fulfilling part of whatever I've done over the last 25 years is working with people. In the early part of my years, really being close to networking and understanding the business through conversations, through attending meetings and becoming creative. But the interaction with people really was the most motivating thing from the beginning. As I transitioned through my career, and you know, the stresses and strains can come above you with regards to delivering objectives and being more responsible for teams. Giving back and teaching or coaching others is also the biggest motivator I have to continue working. I mean, alhamdulillah, we have done pretty well across our careers, across our various fields. But the most fulfilling thing, and we're all humans, is to deal with one another. We are social species, but not individual. And whatever the businesses do, whatever we're doing, it's really people connected. So that's really the most motivating thing, is dealing with people and working with people and working in teams. I love it. It's fantastic. Keeps me going every day. Thank you.
Masood, your views on how to keep motivation high?
Sure. So I have a slightly different perspective to Brother Shabab here. For me, what I would share personally is the fact that, and this is going to sound a bit trite, you know, finding your passion, finding what you really, really enjoy doing is probably the most important thing versus progression. If I look at my own career, I've had many different jobs. I've been with Exxon for 20 years. I've probably held about 11 to 12 different assignments in many different businesses, upstream, downstream, operations, sales, etc., analytics, analysis, and so on. And there are some jobs that I've enjoyed. There are others that I haven't enjoyed as much. And you know, sometimes in our quest to continue to rise with the corporation, we take on assignments because it gives us an opportunity to grow. And if I could turn back time, I would probably spend more time in roles that I had an opportunity to create value, commercial roles where we were able to make money for the corporation, compete in the world with our competitors. I'm currently in that role now in crude trading, and every single day I return with a huge sense of fulfillment. And I think my advice to folks would be to first experiment. You're still young. It's going to take you some time to find out what you have a passion for. And therefore, experiment, try different things. But once you've found that, that magical aspect of working that drives you, that motivates you, latch on to that and become an expert in that versus trying to be all things. So that would be my perspective. Find your passion, pursue it. And if it means that you sometimes have to give up on growth opportunities in the long term, that's what's going to keep you ahead.
Thank you, Shabab Masood. Mustafa, would you like to add something to the comments? Any thoughts?
Sure thing. Great. I agree with what you just said, and I think the one thing I would add is the intrinsic motivation for each of us is different, right? And discovering what it is that drives you personally is pretty important. For me, it's two things. For me, one is I just have an obsession with just making things better, right? And that comes a little bit from an engineering mindset of how do I make this technology better, or how do I make these operations better? But it's also, personal improvement. And I think over my career now, especially working at McKinsey, which is a very advisory role, I get my excitement most these days from helping others get to where they want to be. So, what keeps me up, waking up in the morning and get me excited about work is with my colleagues and with my clients that I'm working with. I've gotten to know them over the past years and knowing, what are their goals and aspirations and helping them get there. And same thing with mentorship with those who are early career as well.
Thank you. I think I just would add one more sentence to the great advice given by my panelists. One is, there's a reason why you do everything, right? So if for the students, you're studying, why are you studying? What are you going to get out of it? It's not for health reasons, right, guys? You do it to earn some money, you want to make a living, you want to make a life, you enjoy it, all those things. So, if you're not motivated, who is going to get hurt? The companies are not going to lose if you are not motivated. They are looking for the best match. They'll find somebody else who is motivated. So to me, the question is, how do we keep our motivation up? Then just look at this. One option is look, who will lose by not being motivated? And that would be ourselves, right? Even while we are in our career life, some of us are plus 20 years, some are approaching 30 years. The day we lose our motivation, that's it, guys. It's a downhill from there. And we see it around ourselves. There are people who have done very well in their first 10 years, and then they lose interest, and then they go down the slippery slope very fast. So I think, to me, there's no other option but to keep your motivation up. All we need to is to find out how. What does it take to get motivated? And everybody's different. You find what motivates you. It can be the money, it can be the recognition, it can be other things. But you find what motivates you and work on that. Okay, the second question is how to network in COVID-19 situation. And it would be great if Athar and Iqtidar can answer this one, please.
So I'll go first, and I think it's a good question, great question, and especially coming from the folks who are just getting out of college, universities, and they're looking for opportunities, how they can network. I think initially it's your colleagues, it's your professors who you have worked with in the past, alumni, but also through your friends, parents. I'm sure that's how Junaid reached out to us. This is the opportunity, and use the technology. I would continue to say use the technology. LinkedIn is the professional social network for professionals, and building that network. So use the technology, use your friends, family, whoever you can get to, and you just build your network. And I think it's not just a question of growing your network. You also need to, especially when it comes to LinkedIn, just don't willy-nilly add people, whoever is pinging you. I think you also need to selectively choose some of those people you want to add to your network, because you want to benefit from that, and you want to, connect with the right people who you can, give something to, and they can give something back to you in return.
And I would like to add here, lots of non-profit professional organizations, depends which profession you're in. Non-profit professional organizations have moved to online formats for their conferences and their meetings and seminars. And young professionals can approach these organizations through LinkedIn, through social media. And an easy way to get your networking through these organizations is to volunteer your time. So you can sign up for these seminars. You can be a scribe. You can request the organizers to include you in the online sessions. So they are very open. They're letting people attend seminars which would normally be prohibitively expensive. So make use of this opportunity to attend those seminars and conferences, and volunteering your time and getting to know the professionals who are conducting these seminars.
Okay. Thank you. I think there's a question from the forum. What are the marketable skills in this environment? If we would like to take a stab on it, what are the marketable skills that will help in this environment? Can you hear us?
Hello. Yes. So, workplace skills are definitely essential for for qualification for any position. So those skills plus information technology is essential for every workplace. So finding training courses that can improve your IT skills. We've talked about Excel. That's an important tool that gets you, through in many professions. So improving your skills on many different levels with software, with information technology, getting certified to work in an operating plant, for example. You can utilize this time to work towards your skills in the basic safety and apply your knowledge and use this time to get ahead of other candidates.
Here's a question for the forum. Which sector in the process industry is the best to track yourselves towards, for example, upstream, downstream, specialty chemicals, and polymers under the current circumstances? Wow, this guy, whoever's written the great question. I'm sure you know the industry very well, especially the process industry. So, Masood,
sure.
Like to answer this one.
Sure. Let me take a crack at that. So, we Exxon, I guess. We've been fortunate, both Brother Shabab and I, we work for an integrated major. Exxon is in every aspect of the energy value chain, the oil and gas value chain, from upstream, from the well side, right to the wheels, and refining in between, and midstream and pipeline and logistics. So the whole gamut, essentially. And so our upstream business is highly dependent on the price of energy, the price of crude oil. The upstream business is a cyclical business. These cycles tend to be long lead time. So, for example, to give you a perspective, we were drilling back in the 60s for oil in offshore Newfoundland, east coast of Canada. And we struck oil in the late 70s. By the time that we developed the project and set up the platform, first oil came in the 1990s. And this project is supposed to produce until 2050. So almost 90 years to 100 years. And so when we make these investments, they're supposed to be resilient to both high prices and low prices. But more importantly, well, I think I made sort of a silly statement there. They have to be resilient to low prices. High prices are obviously attractive for the investment. And so you have to make decisions that are based on potentially generations. And the industry has always been marked by fluctuations, by cycles. This is not new. Prices have fallen from, I don't know, $60, $50 down to $10. You guys probably also heard about negative crude trading at minus $37. So the upstream business is very cyclical. This has happened back in the early 80s. This has happened back in 2014. This has happened back in 1973, and I can go on and go on. The downstream business is a bit more stable. The downstream business is more dependent upon both the lubricants business that Brother Shabab manages on a global basis for us, as well as the fuels business, because it is dependent on end user demand. It's dependent on people like yourselves that run a household, need personal mobility, need to travel, whether it's on your cars or public transport or trucks that are moving goods and services in the economy. And so my perspective and experience would be that, generally speaking, you don't see a lot of disconnect and dislocation within the downstream business when oil prices change. In fact, it's a bit of a hedge. When prices go down, the feedstock for the downstream business gets cheaper, and they become more resilient, and margins actually improve. Not the situation currently, but that's generally the case. So it's hard to say what's going to happen. We might come out of this in a V-shaped recovery, which is a quick recovery, in which case oil prices could go back to economic levels for investments to take place. On the other hand, we could see a long slump because people might come to the conclusion, and companies might, that, you know what, we can actually have employees work out of homes and they don't have to come to the office. And you could have a situation where people stop driving, stop commuting, and stop using commercial lease space. And then you've got a long-term decline for oil. So either way, the downstream business is generally a more stable business. The upstream business tends to be punctuated with cycles.
Yeah, if I can build on what Brother Masood just said, I predominantly only worked in the downstream business. And for those of you who are doing chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical, it's still a wonderful business to get into because it's so much more closer to the consumer and the customer. And despite the current situation, and the current situation is unprecedented, as most of you know, I don't think we see this anytime in our lifetime again. I hope we don't anyway. Some people predict we will, but I hope we don't. Because of the demand destruction that has taken place, there is fundamentally some key stoppages in people's everyday life. But, you know, in the downstream and petrochemical side of ExxonMobil, we have underlying growth in areas of lubricants, in areas of petrochemical, plastics, polymers, really feeding the growth out in Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, where we actually see in our industry that there's a heck of a lot of opportunity and fundamentally a lot of growth there and in those regions. So some of you may be considering, you know, is it wise to think about, you know, even venturing afar for your internship, or even, you know, if you, some of you take gap years. I don't know if you guys do in the UK, in the US, we do in the UK, but try and get opportunities out there for the industry that you're looking at, because you'll open your eyes up on the opportunities related to the downstream. Alternative energies is look at, if you go on our website, we have a 30-year forecast of where we think energy demand is going to go and where it's going to come from. And, you know, the renewables, the nuclears, the solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, dare I say it, these are all rising energy sources that will be there and be part of the mix. So do keep a keen lookout for opportunities in those industries because they're all growing, and they're all growing fast, and they're growing at double digits actually from a very low base, and there's a lot of opportunities emerging there. So do remain focused in those areas as well. Okay.
Thank you. I think we should hear from Mustafa on this also. Mustafa, what do you think?
Yeah,
you deal with a lot of
I know there are a lot of
right?
other questions as well, and I work across the value chain. Work a lot in upstream, and my background is actually also ExxonMobil upstream exploration as well as production. Worked in Newfoundland for many years. Actually, a little bit of what Masood was talking about. Look, I think two big points. Number one, I really agree with the point that if you think long run out, 30 years, 40-year career, then there are these double-digit growth opportunities in renewables in other areas. And I think it's okay, do look at it, see if something strikes interest. For those of you who are chemical engineers, actually chemical, electrical, and mechanical is all pretty relevant to the renewable sector. But even within the oil and gas value chain, I would not be discouraged about going into upstream if you are a petroleum engineer or in a reservoir engineer, very, very specialized in upstream, for two reasons. Number one, at this stage of your career, what a lot of companies look for is people who are sharp, they have really strong soft skills, and they have a strong engineering foundation. The reality is a lot of what you learn in school, you have to learn a lot more in your job because what you learned in school is not what you're going to do day to day. I don't know the last time I did calculus in my job, right? So the important thing is if you have a strong engineering foundation, you can migrate to other areas if things get really, really bad. I think that addresses one of the questions that was on the chat. Now, having said that, there's also a herd mentality a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people will try to move out of upstream into more stable areas. But I also know back in 2000, right around the mid 2000s, 2007, 2008, 2009, there was this incredible demand in upstream. And then, there was a stop in hiring, prices fell down, and then they started picking back up. There were a lot of people at ExxonMobil who got into project management and execution and are my friends today, who are in really great assignments all over the globe. And it's because they stuck around in upstream at a point where a couple of people tried to get out. So what I'm saying is, if you find you have a passion for upstream, don't let the temporary market dynamics dissuade you, right? Because we are still going to need people in the upstream industry.
Thank you, Mustafa. I just want to add one more comment to this thing, guys. Wherever you go, whichever industry you pick, that industry is going to stay most likely. It's not going to happen. Some of the industries just get wiped out. Some will, but I think most of them are there to stay. Wherever you are, there's a normal norm that 20% are what we call the drivers, and they lead by example. There's 60% who just do their average. They do things day to day. They just do the jobs and they get on with their thing. There are 20% who are below average performers, And whenever these things comes in, the first to get impacted are the below average performers, right? And the companies, they always like to develop the above average performers, right? They see them as their leaders. They think that they will be the next generation leaders. So your goal is, depending whichever industry you are, is to remain in the top 20 percentile of your company. Make sure you're learning the skills that help you to stay over there. And those are skills that your company is looking. So if you're an upstream, downstream, yeah, there is a bit of difference, but project management is same. The principle is the same. You can very quickly go from downstream to upstream, upstream to downstream if you have the right skills. And as Mustafa mentioned, when you reach a certain part of your career, every time you pick up something, it's new. You have not done it, right? And you just learn at that time and move on with it.
Okay, some questions, a few more questions, let's take another one, Now, there's a question, what can parents do in this, at this time to support their kids or, the younger generation? So maybe let's start with Athar. What do you think? What role parents can play in this thing?
Maybe I'm not the right person to answer this. My kids are still very young. So, but, I think parents, especially, parents have been working their career, 20, 25 years of career. So they have an insight into what is successful as when you're working for a company. So don't be shy to ask them, what are those success factors that they have learned over the years working for a company or multiple companies, if they have switched jobs throughout their career, what are those success factors? And a lot of these success factors, a lot of these soft skills, even though you prepare for it, I think you will learn on hand on the job. But at least they can give you some insight so you can consciously focus on those areas. Again, around the behavioral, around the soft skills. If my kid comes and asks me how to solve a problem in calculus, I will not be able to help. But if my kid comes and asks me, I have a issue with my team, how do I resolve that? I think I'll be much more helpful. So I think that's where you can leverage on your parents is, success factors on a job, soft skills, behavioral aspects, which will make you successful.
Right.
And I would just add to that as well that, as a parent, I think the single most important thing you can do for your kids is just tell them that you believe in them. There is so much of what's happening right now, offers being rescinded or interviews not happening at all, right? These are things that are outside of their control. And I think just reminding them that, they'll get through this tough time, right? And there are people here to support them. I'll just quickly share when I was, so I'm an engineer by background. My dad was an engineer. And at one point I decided to switch tracks, get an MBA and go more into this consulting and business side of things. My dad didn't know anything about engineering and he was pretty nervous in the beginning, why are you leaving a good job at ExxonMobil actually to go do this boondoggle? But he said, I trust you. And just the only thing he asked was talk to a couple of people who have done an MBA and just make sure that you're gonna like whatever is it that they're doing and that what your strengths are going to be strengths that are applicable for the new thing that you want to do. I think that was very helpful for me to hear many years ago, because if I had heard from my parents that they're not confident in my ability to get the job, then it would have kept me pretty nervous.
Thank you, Mustafa. Iqtida, what do you think? Any suggestions for parents?
Yeah, as parents, we can share our experience. We can share our learnings, what we've learned from our parents and from our colleagues, workplace, experiences from various sources and share with our youth.
Okay. I would just, one point that a good message I would add is, so for the parents, these are frustrating and challenging times, I think. Like us, they're also struggling, and some, depending on what the situation is, have higher frustration versus others. The one thing we should commit is that we are not going to be the source of increased frustration for the youth, for the kids. Let's make sure that we keep it as positive as possible at home, help them to get the advice that they need and listen to them. I think key thing at this moment comes is, when people are frustrated, they're trying to take out their frustration, the kids, if they've come to you, give them some time, listen to what they're saying, give them the right advice, guide them to the right people. Okay, let's take another question. This question is really for Mustafa again. What is it like to work at McKinsey, which is a non-consulting firm? And what does it take to get into McKinsey or a consulting firm?
Sure thing. I'll keep it super brief, but I'm also happy to share my contact information afterwards for people who want to reach out in detail. So look, I think the single biggest thing between working at any consulting firm like McKinsey versus working in industry is going to be the work is going to be a lot faster paced. It's one of the reasons why I joined. So what might be a 3-year assignment in industry, you have to solve in 3 weeks or 3 months, right? And it's a shorter time. It can be higher stress, but it also helps you grow a lot faster, and you also learn a lot about yourself. So I'd say, I still use a lot of my engineering problem-solving skills, a lot of leadership skills, influencing skills, but it just feels more accelerated. I think as mid-career, not having a background in consulting, the best way, I think it's a misnomer that consultants only hire from like Ivy League schools or, very few people from other schools, and it's only out of school. We actually McKinsey hires experienced professionals, and in fact, I'm in the process of hiring 2 people right now from oil and gas. So even within our oil and gas practice, we're hiring people. So I think the best thing is what I mentioned. Make sure you show what impact you've had in whatever is it that you've done, right? Number 2, showing the leadership skills. And I think some things you can do right now if you want to transition is, as Iqtidar was mentioning, right, get involved in nonprofit opportunities. If you're not getting direct leadership opportunity at work, I think it's a fantastic way to show that you can bring people together for a good cause and have a positive impact.
Okay, I got a question. What's the opinion about good grades? And maybe let's start from the panel. And maybe Iqtidar, you would like to say what's the importance about good grades?
Go on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So definitely, to get through the door, you need to meet the criteria, and one of the criteria for any position is staying above a certain limit in your grades, and spend most of your energies, your time to improve your grades if you can make use of this time to do that.
I think we're coming to end of our time, but I think most of the panelists said, first thing is, the first thing they all say is the grades. So I think the basic building block of your resume, I would say the foundation, everything is the grade. If you've got everything else but no grades, it doesn't help with your cause. So make sure you put your top grades, and then all the other leadership skills, resilience, and everything that we said, they bolt onto it. The center of your everything are your grades. So you make sure you have good grades, because they're the first thing that stands out when people are reviewing the resumes. I think we are 15 minutes over a time. There are a lot of questions. One of the questions is how to find jobs and these things. I think just continue looking, guys. There are various forums. You can search the internet. You can look at LinkedIn. You can network with your peers, your friends, your seniors. Just continue looking till you find one. The jobs are out over there. It's not that the jobs have dried out. They're less. They're slightly different, but they are there. Then there was a question: should we work for free if we can't find a job? It's like a food chain, guys. If you find a job which pays you, take it. If it doesn't find, it's okay to work without pay, but still continue looking. As soon as you have the experience, you can step up to somewhere where you can find a salaried job that will help you to move. There was a few other points, but what I wrote, there are a few more questions, but I won't read all of them. But I think key point is, guys, control the controllable. Control what you all can control. If you're worried about, the market is going to do what marketing is going to do. The employers will do what they have to do. It's your actions which will make the difference. And the key actions are, if I recap, is high grade. Please, please, please try harder and harder so that you've got as good GPA as possible, right? Second is flexibility. Be flexible, try to adapt to the situation so you can learn. Third thing is show eager and desireless. There's always something new to learn. Don't get worried if you are put in this situation where there's something new and you don't know, because there's no company out there where they don't advantage you new things, and they will support you to learn new things. Be coachable. It's easy to argue. It's easy to say, oh, this is like that, and we can have a lot of arguments. But remember, who is looking for opportunity? So if you are looking for opportunity, it's your time to be flexible and learn, right? And last but not least, the resilience. Show your resilience. Make sure you can iron out these storms, and you come out better prepared, more successful person out of this work there. With this, I think I hand it over back to our president.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Junaid. I think you did an excellent job, and thanks for the panelists. There's only one question which I want to really comment on is being a parent. I've got 4 children, and with 3 of them are in a way to grad. Some of them have graduated. One has done masters. So the key thing is, and I'm an old timer in the sense that a lot of things which you were saying, right, it just goes above my head. So the only thing what I would say is that it's not the solution, people of my age can provide. If you have a parent of my age, it's the support, right? Reach out for support. We will get you support from somehow, but the thing is, if you are asking for a calculus question which I cannot solve, that will be an issue. Well, anyway, thank you very much. Some of our panelists had to go and they had engagement. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Junaid, also. And thank you very much for the audience. Please stay safe in this COVID-19 environment. And inshallah, we'll plan something new. I'm sure we'll be receiving a lot of your questions. I'm going to keep that and forward it to Junaid and the group, the panelists. And we'll share their information if they want to be shared, like Mustafa said. So we'll share his contact details, and do reach out to that phone number which I've given to you, and also the email of Woodlands Islamic Center. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
No.